Hey, what's up, Jerry?
Good evening. We're going to wait a few more minutes. There's still a fair number of people coming in, so our time is not unlimited, but we're going to give it a couple more minutes as some folks still making their way in. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Len Desiderio, and I want to thank you for taking time to join with us this evening. At this time, please stand for our flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to introduce the Mayor of Ocean City, Jay Gillian.
Good evening. I want to welcome everybody to Ocean City. Nice turnout. And this is a big issue. You know, the one thing that we've been talking about for a long time now, ever since this started, the one thing that I've tried to do is get the facts out and information. You know, we seem to have a lot of opinions of what's right, what's wrong, and do we want them or don't we want them. But tonight's about getting information out. I mean, that's the one thing that we're doing tonight, they're going to continue to do throughout the county, is getting the information and facts out. And I just ask everybody just to again, take the time, listen, understand, because all these big issues that come out remind us of how passionate we become. And I think sometimes we forget about just taking our time and getting the information and understanding it, because that has been my biggest frustration here in Ocean City, is getting the facts. And anytime you do something, you do it fast, it never seems to end up right. And I think, especially in this democracy, you got to take your time. And anytime you go out into the ocean or you do something of this magnitude, you have to get all the facts, and you have to let us decide whether or not it's good for us or not. It's not good when they tell us so. I do appreciate everybody coming, and again, we are in Ocean City, America's greatest fountain resort, so we'll try to behave ourselves and get all the information out. So I'd like to introduce Lenny Desiderio again, our director.
Seems like we're going to be dancing all night, Mayor, back and forth. As the mayor said, we want to get some information out, and we want to get the true facts out. This is very, very important to all of us. And we in the county are not against wind. We're not against renewable energy. We just want to get the facts, and we want to know what we're looking at. This has been pushed through and rushed at a fast pace, and we think that we should just put some brakes on this so we know what's going on and we know what's going to happen. We want people to listen to us. As an elected official, I have to listen, and I do listen to my constituents. It seems with this project, it's been fast guided and been moving on a fast pace. Once again, we need to slow this down, get all the facts out, learn. We study to learn. On this, we haven't been doing any studying. So we study to learn, and hopefully tonight, we're going to give you all the opportunity to come up and say what you need to say. And as the mayor said, we're going to do it in a respectful manner, and we'll have a good night. At this time, I'd like to introduce the special counsel for Cape May County, Judge Michael J. Donahue. Judge?
Good evening. Ron, could you hand me that microphone, maybe? Might make more sense. So I can't. Is this on? All right, perfect. Good evening. Thank you for coming out. We knew there'd be a lot of interest in this. Just by way of background, as you all probably know, Ocean City and the County of Cape May and others have been dealing with these issues for a couple of years now. I have been a New Jersey attorney for almost 30 years. For several years, I was a Superior Court judge. I left the bench to kind of come back into the larger world at the beginning of 2020, and they shut down the larger world. But through odd twists of fate, I ended up as the county administrator in 2020. And one of the things that came across my desk was the Orsted Ocean Wind projects. And we began to sort of dig into it and present to the Board of Commissioners some information about it, which of course raised concerns. After 2020, at the end, I had agreed to do that job to help, bring back over 1,000 county employees and figure out how to reopen the county during COVID. At the end of 2020, I went back into private practice and was asked to stay as special counsel for the county for the wind issues. This is why I find myself here speaking to all you good people, which is great. I'm not going to individually recognize everybody, but we do have a number of county commissioners, our state senator, other elected officials who are very engaged on these issues. And as you know, Congressman Van Drew will be holding a hearing tomorrow in Wildwood, a congressional hearing, and we'll touch on that. So I do have a slideshow. I'm not a big PowerPoint fan, but I think it's important that we have, it's the old dragnet, just the facts, man. We're trying to stick to the facts. We do have obviously some firm positions on certain issues, but I'm going to go through this quickly. We're going to try to go through this part of the program relatively quickly. We are setting a goal to kind of be out of here by 7:30 or so. We will get to public comment, and I'll have some ground rules for that when we get there. We're not going to be taking questions during the presentation. And the mayor and the director may jump in from time to time with some comments. So, again, the County of Cape May, Ocean City are not against cleaner energy, not against wind energy. There are just a lot of questions that should be answered. One of the benefits of this project will be, during the construction phase, a lot of jobs for local union labor. We support that. But that in and of itself doesn't answer all the questions that we have. There has been statements that we sued the project. We did not. Both Ocean City and Cape May County were brought into the BPU by petitions filed by Orsted Ocean Wind. And we'll talk more about that as we move through. Again, we're here to learn, as the director said. This will be the first of several public information sessions that we'll take around the county. We have been planning to do this for some time. God bless the whales. We don't want any more whales to die. We didn't want those whales to die, but they certainly have crystallized interest. And that interest has led beyond the whales to what's really happening here. How is this going to work? What are these going to look like? Please be civil and respectful at all times, goes without saying. Especially here tonight, we're in the Tabernacle, which is a house of worship here in Ocean City. It's a beautiful facility, perfect for tonight. We've almost filled the 800 permanent seats, and it's important that we have these information sessions. Those who support the wind projects and those who have concerns and oppose wind projects are all well-meaning people worthy of patience and respect, especially in a house of God, and may the Spirit descend on us here tonight in Ocean City. The Orsted project, Ocean Wind 1. I keep touching the screen because I use an iPad, and they keep telling me not to do that. This is information you can find online, supplied by Orsted. Let's see. I'm going to go through this very quickly. This is a basic background on the Ocean Wind 1 project. You will see, and we'll touch on this a number of times. The blue part is Ocean Wind 1. The gray part is Ocean Wind 2. Okay? This has been the subject of a great deal of discussion. Here's the project area. These are transmission lines going up to Oyster Creek and to the BL England, former BL England site. This was the subject of the litigation so far at BPU. The county and Ocean City did not come to terms on granting easements and consents for permits, and so the Board of Public Utilities, as you'll hear shortly, took those powers away from the local elected officials. The project did evolve. This was the original Ocean 1 project area, which would have put turbines, windmills about 9-10 miles from the coast. Here, the representation is the closest one will be about 15 miles. This is how the project ended up. But again, this is Ocean Wind 2, the gray area. This shows you the challenges for fishing vessels, other ships. The transit lines have to go, in these straight lines, and to get from this point to that point, you can't just cruise through the ocean anymore. This is a representation of the monopiles. There'll be 98 of these in Ocean Wind 1, drilled or pile driven for the placement of the turbine eventually. Export cables are intended to be 4 to 6 feet under the sand offshore. So that's the project in a nutshell. This is another aspect. This will be the disturbance of the seabed. Of course, there are 98 turbines. They all have to sort of connect, right? And you've got to get the power from each one to what will be 3 substations that will then go to the transmission lines. This is archaeological potential disturbance, that's what they call it. But this shows you graphically the seabed disturbance as part of the project and the permanent installation. These are just pictures from Orsted's site that show the type of wind farms that they produce. Now, this is a representation. This is the one that's going to be installed. In fact, it will be just a little taller. This is the Eiffel Tower. This is the Statue of Liberty. That gives you some perspective. This is a graphic that was produced locally. So you have some landmark steel pier. You could see Ocean Casino today, as you can often. Again, the Statue of Liberty. And there you go. So we have, that's the Washington Monument on the skyline of Washington, D.C. That's, of course, the Statue of Liberty in perspective. That is the Eiffel Tower, the Paris landscape. There'll be 98 of these turbines with the project installed. And this gives you some idea of the monopiles. This is a sort of representative, similar turbine. These are men, women working. It gives you some size perspective. This is the type of ship that they use to install. Similar, this is a different type of foundation, but these ships come out, they anchor themselves in these legs, and they install the parts. Pretty, actually, amazing operation. This is a substation. We mentioned there'll be 3 of them. That's what they look like. The base of the substation takes about 0.6 acres. And this is a little closer view of what they look like. Orsted is an international company with a great deal of experience already. They transitioned from fossil fuels, for the most part, to offshore wind and onshore wind energy, and they're all over the world. This graphic shows the number of lease areas that are in process for development. This here is Ocean Wind 1 and 2. But you see these will eventually, the plan is for these to go the full length from New England to New Jersey and below. So here we are up here. This is Ocean Wind 1 and 2. Here's Atlantic Shores. It's all really just one continuous wind farm. Come down here to Skipjack and another lease area, all visible from Cape May, and they keep going. There is a very long list of concerns, and one of the things we tried to do for tonight was to sort of narrow this to a few major things. So we don't want you to think, well, you're not concerned about this or that. This is a short list. Viewshed impacts, marine mammals, obviously, fisheries, tourism, electromagnetic fields, bird strikes, increased electricity bills, noise pollution, disruption of currents in the cold pool, which I've learned a lot about recently. Sediment plumes, which are the currents and the windmills and where the sand goes. Disruption of the food chain, mariner navigation problems, electrical grid that is not ready, has to be built out. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of gallons of oils and fuels associated with the operation of the wind farms. No demonstrable climate benefit, which we'll talk about, and dozens of critical unknowns, and that's kind of a short list. So we'll move into some of these issues. This was an interesting graphic. Being immersed in these issues, I happened to see this on CNN and say, wow, that's an interesting graphic. This is the minerals used for 1 megawatt of power capacity for natural gas, coal, solar, onshore wind, and offshore wind. It's pretty stark, and if you search for rare earth mining human rights abuses, it raises concerns. You will find on Orsted's website that they have a section on this, and they are taking steps to try and certify the supply chain. It's apparently very difficult to do, and some of the human rights abuses are very disconcerting. Are the windmills the solution to climate change? Not according to BOEM, the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management. This is Vineyard Wind. This was the first major project that was approved. It's up in New England. And the conclusion there in looking at the projects I showed you before up and down the coast, this is from their document. And this is their conclusion. Overall, it is anticipated there will be no collective impact on global warming as a result of offshore wind projects, including Vineyard Wind, though they may beneficially contribute to a broader combination of actions to reduce future impacts from climate change. What those are, unclear. It's a little different from the things that we've been hearing. Let's talk about the whales. I'm sure many of you became interested in these issues because of the whales. Again, the County of Cape May is not saying that, or Ocean City, or anybody really, saying, we know you're killing the whales. But we don't know, and that's a problem. So we don't know why the whales are striking ships or otherwise dying more frequently at the moment, but somehow we do know that has nothing to do with the wind projects. So there are a couple of people talking about this that aren't us. Scientists who study whale stranding say there's no link between the wind turbines and whale deaths, although they continue to investigate what role, if any, wind development has in whale deaths. A Trevor Branch, professor at University of Washington School of Aquatic and Fisheries Sciences, says it's very unlikely but not impossible that the link indicates that sounds from work from wind farms could cause larger whale deaths. I'm not aware of any published research suggesting such a link, however. So this is the point. We don't know what we don't know, and it's of concern. A lot of us live here, a lot of us have long connections here. It used to be a big deal, right? If a humpback whale washed up on shore, it was a huge deal. It was in the paper, there were stories, state officials came down, Marine Mammal Stranding Center, and then Public Works would have to figure out how to bury the whale. I've dealt with it in my professional life as well for representing beach towns. But it was rare. So we have this sense that this is unusual. This was a recent graphic in the press of Atlantic City. There have been a couple more, as I understand it, since the last one listed here, March 2nd. But I mean, this isn't normal. And it should be of concern. So what have elected officials called for? Oh, we'll go through that in a moment. This is a NOAA graphic showing different seismic surveys, wind farm development, ship noise, and where it goes, what's effective. Now these guys will eventually, I assume, have to come up for air through that, but that gives you a little idea of the things that go on. This is Orsted's information, about how they survey. So I'm going to go through this very quickly. You may see these, but it look like trawlers, and I guess they hire some trawlers. But they'll pull behind this various acoustic equipment, right? They have to survey the ocean floor to see what they're dealing with in terms of installation. There are reconnaissance surveys, engineering surveys, different types of reconnaissance type of electronics that will survey the bottom through echolocation, sonar, and other things. There are also physical target inspections and some drilling that will take place. Don't believe that's taking place now. Not entirely positive. So getting back to our slides, this is from Orsted's graphics that shows you what they come up with, understandably. Multi-beam depth sounder determines water depths and bottom topography. Side scan sonar creates an image of the seafloor. Sub-bottom profilers identify characteristic layers, sediment, etc. And protected species monitoring programs with protected species observers, passive acoustic monitoring, and thermal imaging cameras are employed, which is an indication that there is concern for those marine mammals in this process. This is what our elected officials up and down the coast have been saying. What if there was a 90-day wind project pause and whales kept washing up, or no whales washed up? That would be very persuasive evidence of whether or not the wind survey operations are impacting the whales. Seems logical. This is what our elected officials, our congressmen have been asking for the last month or so, but it's not going to happen apparently at the moment. The answer is, we don't know what's killing the whales, but it's not this. Exactly. So moving on. This is from a Rutgers study. Offshore wind farms expect to reduce clam fishery revenue. Study finds there might be nobody in this room who doesn't know somebody in the clamming industry here or the scallop industry. Fishery impacts. Off New Jersey's southern coast, stretching from Cape May to Long Beach Island, there are 2 lease areas that span over nearly 344,000 acres in total, the area larger than Sussex County. Scallops and clams are likely to get more expensive because harvesting is going to get more expensive. And here, fishing vessels could face 15% losses from offshore wind farms. Atlantic City-based clam vessels could face 25% losses from offshore wind farms. They're in the process of creating a fund to help these industries, and I read a quote from one of the clammers who said, "I don't want a fund, I want to fish." Interestingly, this is the map I was talking about of the fisheries areas. Pretty dense, except for in here. Impacts on tourism, which is stark. This is an Orsted document. Talks about tourism. They do have a study that shows some people may come to see the windmills, but what they say is they're going to do that one time, and that'll probably be it. If you're in the tourism industry, you know the key to success is getting the people back year after year. But this is what's of most concern is this part here. More than 70% of voters vacation at the Jersey Shore. 85% of these will still continue to vacation there with wind turbines 15 miles off the coast. So in my courtroom, I had a rule, the court does not do math. However, that to me is a 15% reduction in visitors, right? 100 minus 85. So Diane Weiland, who's our tourism director, who's here tonight, has all the numbers, and they are kind of shocking. This is at 15% loss of tourism would erase 8 years of direct tourism growth, $993 million decrease in total visitor spending, 1.5 million visitors lost, $414 million lost in lodging, 229.5 in food and beverage, 189 lost in retail, 99.1 million lost in recreation spending, 62 lost in transportation. So you see, even if that's not true, even if the impacts on tourism are cut in half, the outcomes could still be pretty devastating. We certainly are pushing to find ways to offset this, to find ways to reduce this. This would be mainly from the impacts, the visual impacts from looking out on a pristine horizon over the span of history and time that would now have a wind generation facility on it, essentially permanently. All right. I did want to leave this up here for a moment so everybody can kind of see it. This is of huge concern to the county, to Ocean City, to everyone, because this is our livelihood, right? My first job was as a dishwasher at Henny's restaurant in Stone Harbor, which is now gone. But we all have these jobs, right? We work in these industries in the summertime. Our kids now work in these industries, our grandchildren. These type of hits would be devastating. All right, a lot of people ask about this. Prior to June of 2021, if the project needed an easement or it needed consent to its filing of environmental permits that had to use public lands, the project would have to come to local elected officials or county elected officials and get their approval. And they would have to potentially go through a process of approval. On June 10th, 2021, introduced in the legislature was a bill to take away that aspect of home rule. And it passed both houses in 14 days, 10 business days. Yeah, they push it through. Our legislators all voted against it. We thanked them for that. This amendment to OWEDA, it's called the Offshore Wind Economic Development Act, allowed then the project, any project, Orsted Ocean Wind is our project at the moment, to apply to the Board of Public Utilities to set aside the local and county elected officials and give their authority, take their authority in order to give Orsted its consents and its easements. And this happened. It's pretty obvious. Ocean City, seven-member governing body, about 11,200 people. Cape May County, 5 county commissioners, about 92,000 people. Elected representatives of the people. The power was moved to 5 unelected members of the Board of Public Utilities, appointed by the governor. Is it 7? I'm sorry. No, it's 5, I think. It might be 7. I'm sorry. I could be wrong. 6. I apologize. So, Ocean City and Cape May County raised concerns about certain issues, wanted to talk more about easements and things. Orsted took advantage of the new law, which was written for this purpose, and went to the BPU. It is important to note, Ocean City didn't sue the wind project, neither did Cape May County. That's a misnomer that's out there. We were brought to that body by petitions filed by the project that forced us into that litigation. So what happened? We argued, Orsted didn't, this is getting in the weeds a little bit, but it's important to know all these things were denied. Pre-action elements that weren't satisfied, due process under the Eminent Domain Act, denied. Given the complexity and importance of the issues, there's a process to move this to an administrative law judge, denied. We requested discovery. Anybody's ever been involved in this stuff, you know what discovery is. We requested the cross-examination, examine their witnesses, all denied. Rate Counsel represents all of the ratepayers. Rate Counsel is involved in these issues. Rate Counsel raised the same objections. Rate Counsel is now, Ocean City has filed an appeal from their case. Cape May County is likely to within the next week or so. Rate Counsel has filed a motion to bar all of Orsted's exhibits and testimony because discovery and cross-examination were not allowed. So we will see what the courts, where the courts end up. Tommy, I'm hooked into audio, right? Okay, good. There's a couple things worth pointing out. Board of Public Utilities actually sits as judges in these types of proceedings. This is from their own website. Board of Public Utilities is considered a quasi-judicial body, meaning its function is similar to a court or a judge. While our courts say the need for unquestionable integrity, objectivity, and impartiality is just as great for quasi-judicial personnel as for judges. Pretty straight. Didn't happen. County moved to disqualify the BPU in light of its obvious conflict. This is from the BPU website. Among other things, Executive Order 8 called for the Board of Public Utilities to engage stakeholders, solicit input from the public to promote and realize the development of wind energy off the coast of New Jersey. That's their job. That's okay. And we argued that's okay. But you can't also be the judge of these issues. Yes, so it has been held that whereas here impartiality and neutrality are required to be displayed, the wearing of a lapel pin that signals a message undermines that requirement. I actually put this in my brief and argued that it was inappropriate. Again, we have no objection to the Board of Public Utilities being the champion of wind energy and, as they've described it, the partner of the wind companies, as long as they don't also try to be impartial judges, which is impossible. So we'll be making those arguments. The outcome. As I said, the BPU took away the county and Ocean City's right to object to the environmental permit applications, not consent to them, and gave Orsted their consent to file those applications. They also effectuated taking of real property held by the people of Ocean City and the people of Cape May County and transferred those interests to the Orsted Ocean Wind Project. However, there are glimmers of hope, perhaps, on these issues. Sorry. I called a profile on courage. Some of you might remember John Kennedy's book. Commissioner Diana Solomon from the BPU voted for us. She voted to deny the petition, and she will tell you why at 129:55, which I have to get to. Let's see. Trying to get close. I'm sorry. I have to put my glasses on. Take a break.
in order for this board to even consider this type of action.
There it is.
And, there has to be a definite public need in order for this people who live here.
Close enough.
Any questions, comments?
Turn it up a little bit.
Yes.
The legislation giving the board authority to act in the stead of local municipalities in this, and the Ocean City matter, confers upon us the obligation to see that a full, complete, and transparent record is developed. I appreciate that as we move forward in our energy transition, we need to move swiftly and remove hurdles that impede progress. However, this petition and the Ocean City petition are the first of its kind, and we should be as diligent in our review of this infrastructure project as we would any other. Clearly, this is a contentious, if not a contested matter, and frankly, I agree with Rate Council that the board would have been better served if it had referred these matters to the ALJ to develop the record. In hindsight, I also believe we erred in our decision in the Ocean City matter. I agree with Rate Council that the record is lacking for us to determine if the preferred route is reasonably necessary, and I further agree that we are entitled to information regarding the cost of the route. Given the situation in which we find ourselves under the legislation passed, we should be seeking more information, not less. By voting no, I am not expressing opposition to the petition. Rather, I am objecting to the procedure in bringing this petition to a board vote today.
Any other comments, questions? Roll call.
On the motion
Can't
to
hear you,
approve
but I'm
staff's
sure she
recommendation.
appreciates it. That was hugely significant. It may not seem so, but this was supposed to just fly through with no objection. And we do give Diane Solomon a great deal of credit for having the guts to step out and say these things, which is what we have been saying, which is what Rate Council has been saying. And it potentially helps on an appeal as well. But very important that there was one member who had the courage to voice those issues, which is what we've been talking about, right? Next, Ocean City is executing an appeal. We will, in all likelihood, be there shortly. Federal process, I'll go through this quickly. There are several federal processes. We have a law firm in Virginia called Cultural Heritage Partners that deals with cultural heritage historic sites, many of which we have throughout Cape May County, Ocean City included. I believe that ultimately the project determined there was only one historic site they had to worry about. I think it was the pier, music pier, and their mitigation was to create pamphlets about historic sites. We are aggressively pursuing what's called a 106 review with the federal government on historic sites. We also have a group called Warwick Consulting. Some of you know Dan Ginolfi from there. They are in on the draft environmental impact statement, which will come to fruition. The deadline has been moved out a couple of times. We've been involved there. We've participated in the public comment sessions. We've sent professional comments objecting to certain aspects of the review. Those matters will begin to reach conclusions over the course of the next several months, and we'll make litigation feasibility analysis at that time. Our experts on the historic resources have identified some what they believe are serious deficiencies. Cultural Heritage Partners indicates that BOEM, which is the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, has failed to provide adequate visual simulations so that communities could fully understand the adverse visual impacts. The mayor and I were talking about earlier, the official submission does not include a visual from Ocean City, at least that we've seen. Rather than showing the public, obviously, what everything's going to look like, it's hard to figure out. We engaged our own expert, and you'll see a couple of those slides shortly. BOEM, we are pushing BOEM to look at the cumulative effects of all of these wind projects, right? If you take one of them alone, how can you possibly know what it's really going to be like when all of them are built? What's the impact on Whales Den? What's the impact on fisheries den? What's the impact on the coastline, on tourism, all those things? We should know that before these projects all move forward. Again, this is what I was talking about in terms of mitigation of harm to historic resources. Their answer has been to write historic building reports and National Register context statements. Not going to do a whole lot. Drum roll, right? So what will the view look like from Ocean City? Now I'm going to explain this. This is, as we said, Ocean Wind 1, Ocean Wind 2 is the gray area. The intention is to build all of this out with wind turbines. Ocean Wind 1 is phase 1 of that project. What we hire an expert to do is tell us what it'll look like if and when the whole thing is built. Now, this is, the green here is visual impacts, potential visual impacts from Ocean Wind 1, okay? Pretty substantial. You can see these things from many places, including as you go further above sea level, places offshore. But that's Ocean Wind 1. That's Atlantic Shores. That's Ocean Wind 2. That's Skipjack and other projects. The visual impacts won't stop. They'll just keep going down the whole coast. This is what we're talking about having a cumulative analysis of the projects. So, this is Flanders Hotel Room 107. On a full build out on a relatively clear day. So just so you understand, I'm not an expert on this, but I've read all the background information. There were geolocations for Ocean Wind 1. There were, scientific estimations for the rest of it. There's time of day, there's focal plane, things that are beyond my expertise. All go into these, and they weren't cheap, so that they'd be defensible. And we could say with some certainty, if it's all built out, this is what it'll look like. This is Plymouth and the boardwalk. Again, if Ocean Wind 2 is never built, you'll still see these, but they'll be a few miles further out. This is part of what we've been talking about all along, that it's important that we know what the impact of this will be. Once it's built, what's done will be done. So what's happening next? Word on the street is that there's a bill pending in the legislature. We haven't seen it yet. The senator has been diligently looking for it. We do want to thank Senator Mike Testa, Assemblyman Simonson, and McClellan for their efforts on our behalf, which are constant. This bill would restructure the financial incentives, the offshore renewable energy certificates, in order to direct more of it to the developer away from the ratepayers. And our friend, I've actually never met her. People may accuse me of, ask me if she's my aunt or something, but no, I don't know her. But again, this was just 2 Mondays ago, discussing the third solicitation for bids for a wind farm in New Jersey. And Diane Solomon has some really good comments. Some of it is like the acronyms and stuff, but you'll see what we're talking about in terms of the intention to move these funds that come in during the life of the project to the developer away from the ratepayer, which is all of us. What was that number? Tommy, did you see it? 5825? See if Bobby Barr's right. Right there? Pretty close.
And the marine ecosystems off our coast. I am very hopeful that given the number of successful bidders for the new lease areas off our coast, that we will see many more applicants entering the market and promoting a more competitive market. for offshore wind in New Jersey. So, and I just want to thank staff for all their hard work in moving this process along.
As Commissioner
Any
Gordon.
other questions or comments?
Comment?
Comment?
Now, I'm correct in understanding, because I know there's a, minimum and a maximum in terms of the solicitation that we're doing. So, or we could award nothing, based upon the bids that we receive, because, as you know, I've been concerned from the outset regarding the cost of offshore wind to ratepayers. It appears that with every solicitation, promises are made that somehow disappear, or we learn of increases in costs above and beyond that which we relied upon in making our initial awards. For instance, with the first solicitation, we were assured that any federal funds or investment tax credits would be used to offset the cost of the OREC. But we now learn that legislators are poised to give the funds back to the developer. We were also told that there would likely be substantial capacity payments from PJM's BRA to help offset the cost of the OREC. But given the current results from the BRA, that too seems unlikely. Then there was news that the costs for line upgrades being constructed by JCP&L under the FAA have increased $27.1 million from that which was originally proposed, and that there are additional costs contemplated by PJM in the neighborhood of $25.4 million to be filed with FERC. Then lastly, with respect to the promised economic development, our largest utility, PSE&G, has elected to withdraw from the Ocean Wind project, and we just learned of the possibility of GE pulling its facility from the wind port in New Jersey and moving to New York. Now, I certainly understand with an enterprise of the scope and size of offshore wind that there are bound to be challenges and changes. Under no misnomer there. But folks are relying on us to make prudent decisions that will forever impact the cost of energy here in New Jersey, not to mention the landscape and waters of our coastline. As was recently pointed out during the stakeholder meeting last week, projects are moving ahead without knowing the full impact on marine life or the ocean's ecology. While I am in favor of the development of offshore wind and have high hopes for the economic development it can bring to New Jersey, proceeding without due regard to the cost and effect discounts our obligation to serve ratepayers and demonstrates indifference to legitimate environmental concerns. Nevertheless, I will vote in favor of the matter before us today, that is the release of the guidance document in Solicitation 3, and it is my hope that before the board approves the next project, we will have answers to the valid questions raised. Thanks.
Any other questions or comments? Yes.
So once again, a member of the board addressing all the issues we've addressed here tonight, which I think is important. And historically, she may be a bellwether. But regardless, it is somebody with great experience at the BPU who is saying you're moving too fast, you're ignoring these issues. And it's not just us, right? Okay. Please watch this website, capewindinfo.com. We will have registration for updates. We're going to have all the BPU documents, other documents up there. There are news items up there, things to stay informed as we move ahead. Please do not forget, and I'm sure you won't, tomorrow, an examination into offshore wind industrialization hosted by our Congressman Jeff Van Drew, along with several other congressmen, to talk about some of these issues. For info and to RSVP, visit vandrew.house.gov, right here. And there's a registration form. They have had a lot of interest. And you get to see me again if you come over there. But no, it's going to be a great informational hearing. And it is a full-blown congressional hearing. This is something that the Congress and I actually talked about even before the last election. And it's one of the Speaker's priorities to get Congress out of Washington and into other places. And so we are very fortunate to have right here in Cape May County a congressional hearing that's going to take place. So encourage everyone to come out for that. I just want to return to it. It's going to take me a second. You get to see it all again. All right, again, excuse me, we are here to learn. And we would like to hear from you. We need to do this, however, in sort of a, organized fashion. We are going to have some rules, and myself and the Deputy Administrator, Ron Simone, will try to enforce the rules within reason. They have 1-minute speeches in Congress because they have 435 members, and nobody would ever be able to give a speech if they didn't keep them short. We're going to allow you a couple minutes. We have a limited amount of time, about a half hour left. We do want to hear from as many people as possible, but we would encourage you, if you are with a group of folks, that you have a representative come and speak and not send everybody. And this is also not going to turn into a press conference, so no offense to our friends in the media, and we thank them all for coming. Questions will be answered afterwards. I did promise one local guy, Mike DeVlieger, that I'd let him start it off. But if you all can just, in a somewhat organized fashion, as patient as possible, don't rush the microphone. We'll try to get through as many people as we possibly can. All right? Ronnie? You got one? Okay. Just got one there. When you come up, please introduce yourself, tell us your name and where you're from, okay? And, we're in church, so if you can make a line there and be polite to your neighbors, that would be helpful. All right, take it away. Is it working?
Is this on? Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. My name's Mike DeVlieger. I'm a 3-time elected official here in Ocean City, former councilman. And about 3 years ago, this all kind of came in overnight to us before a council meeting. We were told that literally the day before that Orsted was going to come in and make a presentation and that we would be able to ask questions. Well, I was prepared to ask questions, and they had no answers. I asked them how many dolphin, how many whales would get killed. I was told a statistically insignificant number. Well, so far we have about 25 statistically insignificant whales on the beaches between here and New York, and quite a few dolphin. So, maybe God works in strange ways since we're in a place of worship. Maybe that was for the best because it turned out a lot of people, and people were starting to take notice of what we've been talking about for the last 3 years. But there's a lot of things they're trying to drive through. They were trying to get approvals from us to put these power lines cut right through the island. They were trying to get us to give them all these permits and everything before any environmental regulation was even passed with the federal government. Get permission to do it before they know how it's going to affect them. Let me tell you something. This affects everybody that owns here, that rents here, that has a business here, that fishes here, that eats here. Taxpayers, non-taxpayers, it affects every single one of us. And if you don't take it serious and do your homework, I don't have enough time to go through it, but all those bullet points and more are very true. And you need to look into it. If you do the research, it smacks you in the face. And if you don't think there's causation between the whales and the dolphins dying and Orsted's work out at sea right now, your head's in the sand, okay? You could smoke cigarettes for 15 years and then get cancer. Well, of course, the cigarette manufacturers weren't going to tell you get cancer from smoking. And, somebody goes out and drunk drives and they smash into something, it comes from the alcohol, okay? There's causation here. They started this work a couple months ago. All of a sudden, we have all these dead whales.
Thanks, Mike.
Don't let the whales and dolphins die for no purpose.
Sure. All right, my name is Al Weber, 3023 Asbury Avenue. And I'm very concerned about all of the marine life, obviously all the impacts offshore, but I'm also, as a healthcare professional, concerned about the onshore impact of all these megawatts, I assume, of power that is going to be coming in, and look like the lines are going to be going in through Ocean City. And we know that all the power plants, when you have these big overhead power lines, they have huge areas of, no housing, even when you see it go by a housing development. But there's just huge areas where you're not allowed to build or have anything there. How is one or so many cables of having so much power going to be going from offshore, onshore, cutting through this area? What is going to be the health effects? Has anyone actually examined the health effects of that? Because we know that it's huge when it comes to electromagnetic power from high power power lines. So I think we need to definitely look into that, as well as all of the tremendous impacts on our ocean life. Thank you.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Robin Schaefer. I'm an Ocean City resident and also just returned from a trip overseas to Holland, where it was for vacation, but I got a chance to do some fact finding of my own. Went to the beach outside of The Hague and saw what the wind turbines actually look like 12 to 15 miles offshore. And with all due respect to all of the illustrations that we saw, it looks worse in person. When you see them, it looks 1,000 times worse. I talked to locals there who said the project looks hideous, they don't like it. And it was a windy day while I was there, 12 to 15 knot winds. The wind turbines were not spinning. And the reason they weren't spinning is because that power is only the power that comes in that feeds the grid when the demand is highest. I talked to an electricity or an energy expert in New Jersey recently who said that our grid is not capable of receiving the power from these wind turbines. The grid is unstable. On February 26th, the Wall Street Journal did an editorial about how unstable our grid is. And these projects will only further destabilize the grid. I've also been able to, unfortunately, see a couple of the whales up close. I've gone up and I've witnessed them firsthand. It is tragic what's going on. We need to find out what's going on, whether this survey work has any impact on their deaths. Undoubtedly, this project, when it reaches the construction phase, is going to do a lot more harm to our marine wildlife. And just one more thing, if I can, I'd like to encourage our mayors, and I want to thank you, by the way, all of our elected leaders and our mayors for stepping up for us, because we need that. And I encourage you to file lawsuits to slow this project down and stop it once and for all.
I'll wait till they stop here. Yeah. I'm Jack Deanna. I'm the executive director of the Geothermal National and International Initiative. I live in Sea Isle, and I'm going to tell you, the mob is really should take some credit from these guys, because this is the biggest scam I've ever seen. Windmills only work 20% of the time, and that's at night when the grid doesn't need it. The other thing is, remember one thing. I did a short survey on just the transmission line going from 15 miles out to the substation. I got, without counting in that we have to dig up every town that it goes through, about $700 million. Now, guess who's going to okay the utility to bill you? The BPU. So, for some reason, the guy wearing the windmill tag, I'm sure he wasn't prejudiced or anything. I'm going to tell you, there's other renewables like geothermal. Our schools are falling down around our ears. We've got 7,600 schools we could be putting geothermal in. Our schools are 49 years old, and we can save more energy than those windmills can produce.
Ed O'Donnell, overview, this and all other environmental issues. No air pollution, no water pollution, no litter, no secondhand cigarette smoke, no dust, dirt, grease, grime, and mold in houses or offices. Everybody walk, bike, and electric cars. Thank you.
I can't. All right, here we go. I talked to Lenny about this. All right.
My name is Bob DiUrio. We live in Seaville, Cape May County. I've been an ocean rat my entire life. Years ago, on a fall afternoon, while enjoying some nice waves, I noticed our neighbor's son was caught in a riptide. Before I could reach the child, he was overcome with exhaustion and passed out. A rogue wave came, and the boy's unconscious body was placed in my arms. The ocean calmed, and I made our way to shore. I was credited with saving Billy's life, but I know in my heart I'd witnessed a miracle that day. This is why I truly believe God has guided my hand in writing this letter, and I pray He guides my lips in reading it. In 1939, my grandparents purchased property in Sea Isle City. In his old age, our grandfather passed on the family secret. The Jersey Shore is the best place in the country to work, relax, and enjoy life. In 1972, our parents built a new home on the island, and we became year-round residents. We are third-generation homeowners. Our children are proud Cape May County first-generation natives, and the natives are getting restless. Over the years, our grandfather's secret has been revealed to the rest of the country. We are now a multi-billion-dollar-a-year fishing industry and tourist destination. They are the bloodlines to our survival in New Jersey. An evil Danish monster wants to ruin our ocean and cut off our bloodlines by installing wind turbines as tall as the Eiffel Tower. The monster's deadly tentacle will come ashore through the heart of Ocean City, gutting the main boulevard of Upper Township, continuing north on Route 9 to a 350-acre waterfront property, the old B.L. England electric plant. The existing electric substation will be relocated to another site, also located on the property. In a coal aisle patch, the beast will finally come to rest. Such a fitting end. It does not matter what any of us believe. In the end, folks, Upper Township Committee, our state and federal government, along with the blessing of the BPU, have already given Orsted ultimate power, and they have become the unstoppable mighty Kraken. Under the guise of clean energy, the mighty Danish Kraken has no respect for marine life, wildlife, or our environment. It will destroy everything in its path. We are not against clean energy, but it should not come at the cost to our environment or to New Jersey's economy. Place the wind turbines away from the coastline and to an area that will have at least impact on our way of life. With the Lord's help, hopefully the clowns running the circus will get the message. Until then, we must stop the Kraken. Halt any further offshore wind turbines until November. Place a question on the New Jersey ballot. Let the voters decide. Let the voters decide on the future of offshore wind project. It is our state. Let's respect it, protect it, and enjoy its natural beauty. We pray that God will protect our oceans and all life for future generations. Thank you.
That was fantastic. And somebody writes a letter that well, you got to let them finish it. But if you look behind you, you got a lot of folks lined up. So if everybody could try to move along, that'd be great. Thank you.
All right. My name's Rich Barely. I've been coming to Ocean City. Well, first of all, thank you very much for taking the positions that you are and protecting our Cape May, Atlantic County, and the New Jersey coastline. I've been coming here all my life. I'm a graduate from Ocean City High School. I went to Stockton University. I took a lot of environmental courses. I fish all the time, every weekend out there. And this is a devastating, I don't care what they call it, it's going to be a devastating effect. We have one time to stop this, because if it continues, we're going to get devastated. I am against it. I'm not calling for a moratorium. I'm against the windmills because of everything that you said up there. And due to 2 minutes, I don't have to reiterate everything. The whales, the birds, everything on there. What's the cost to produce it? The question that has not been answered. If you don't care about birds, and we all do, it's rhetorical, birds and whales and the coastline. This is our coastline. There hasn't been one argument on why to build it there, build it here. And also, I heard that the electricity is going to be designated for New York. If that's the case, we're going to destroy our area, and it's going to get shipped out of here. So what? And also, it is a potential security risk, major risk. What if somebody comes in and bombs them, and we're dependent on the windmills there? So what I ask for we the people is to not have this happen at all. What is the answer? My question is, how can we stop it now? Time is beyond the essence. We have great energy, great people here. I was up at LBI on Saturday. Great energy. What's the one thing that we can do to stop it now? Everybody could email. Who do we email? Is it on the federal level? The state level is obviously, it looks like an obstacle, let's call it, and not call it the wrong thing. Okay, what's the benefit to the people of our county? I see zero. So I challenge everybody to stand up and figure out what is the most effective thing to stop it now. It's our coast, it's our New Jersey, and we need to stop it now.
I just reiterate that if Congressman Van Drew is having a hearing in Wildwood tomorrow, that's probably an easy thing to do to stay involved.
Brendan Kelly from Sea Isle City. Thank you very much for having us tonight. The visual impact of these turbines was locked in when the wind energy area was established, which I believe was 2010. Since then, our elected officials and ourselves have been misled by basically sloppy work. I'll give you 2 examples. In the 2012 BOEM Recreation and Tourism Report, they said the tourism report that they're using for that estimate you showed us, they said they evaluated the Hornsdev 1 project over in Denmark. Those turbines were 93 meters, 18 miles offshore, not what they're building. In 2018, in BOEM's Beachgoer survey, and I'll quote from it, each turbine that they showed the visuals of was 6 megawatts and 574 feet high. So what we've had, and you can compare this timeline to what's going on in California. In New Jersey, we started in 2010. We had 10 years of nonsense before we got the visual simulations in 2021. Whereas in California, they did their first call for nominations in 2018, had their visual simulations 7 months later, and they're moving the windmills back because the people participated. So they've just been leading us on, feeding us bad information, and that's where the details are where you can take action. Thank you.
Okay. That's right. So John Broyles, Robbinsville, New Jersey. I've been in the energy industry for about 30 years. So I've done this for a long time. What I will tell you is you've been lied to about a lot of this. First of all, when you put some intermittent power sources on the grid, you have to run fossil fuels at the same time as that, in sync with that, to make sure you don't blow up the grid, and that will happen. Just recently, PJM came out and said they're worried that they have a shortage of power. So if New Jersey thinks that PJM is going to protect this intermittency because we're killing every fossil fuel plant out there that are clean, natural gas is as clean as it comes compared to this, they're killing any stabilization out there. So what you're going to see is there are going to be blackouts that happen like it's happened in Europe, and there's no stopping that if you allow this to happen. So I'm not opposed to clean energy. Throw a few hundred megawatts of wind out there. To think you're going to replace fossil fuels, baseload assets, anything with on-site storage, which would be nukes, some oil backup plants, and some gas, it's not going to happen. You're being lied to. So please fight this. That's it.
Hi, my name is Jim Akers. I'm a resident of Atlantic County. I'm also an avid recreational fisherman. I've spent a lot of time in the back bays here and out front. And I think that offshore wind power is an imperative step towards our transition to clean energy. For years, the state and federal government have been making robust developments into this green energy. Offshore wind is going to be good for the environment, good for the economy, and good for the local workforce. I've personally seen the massive facilities being constructed at the Port of Paulsboro and Artificial Island. Offshore wind is going to be a huge boon for South Jersey. These coming wind and transmission projects will help create thousands of jobs locally, high-paying jobs. It will create diversity in the local economy. It will help slow climate change. It's for the good.
Hey, please, come on. We said we keep it civil. Listen, this is a public forum, and everyone is entitled to render their opinion here. Please don't do that. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to be heard. I'm a resident of Ocean City, Central Avenue, George. There are many great patriots here tonight, all doing something about what has happened here, not just in Ocean City, but throughout the country and the world as a whole. I'll keep it simple. I'm going to put a different spin on this here. Governor Murphy touted this turbine project as being, quote, clean energy. Let's talk about that. Big picture here. This is more worldwide government overreach. The government, World Economic Forum, the Uniparty, those in power and behind the scenes spew words like sustainable, smart, eco-friendly, green. Stop carbon emission, they say. Global warming, climate change is going to kill us. Words like Green New Deal. By the way, this Orsted project is far from green. Pushing electric cars, smart meters, smart cities, I can go on and on. These are all buzzwords in fear and fear porn, to project fear in all of us, to push their real-world agenda, not to save the planet or save us money. They're creating this crisis, pushing it on us, all the while they make millions and trillions of dollars. It's a money grab, and we the people pay the bill. Just shut up. You have no say. Keep quiet. It's for your own good. The real Orsted issue is not just killing the whales and sea life or ruining our local fishermen's way of life, but the government control through government climate engineering or geoengineering. These have been government manipulations for centuries. I have many examples in government files on these topics, but at this time I digress. Remember, the climate has always changed, but it's man that is trying to stop nature from progressing. Please do not blame climate change. Blame the climate changers. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. My name is David Powell. I am a resident of Ocean City. And for everybody here, I will try to be brief. I thought of something coming up, and I see a gentleman here with a phone. I saw many phones and cameras here. They all run on electric. When this program was first proposed, the one question I had is, don't we want, most of all, a capable, clear, functional power grid that is going to most reliably keep things going, especially as electric becomes more and more of a thing? Wind power does not seem to be that answer, and I will tell you why. Europe, as many say, these come from Holland, Northern Europe, Germany, especially Germany, have gone in really big on windmills. And we see now what the energy situation is in Europe, and it is not good. Germany has gone back to mining coal, which they would swore off. They need a reliable grid, especially when we realize that other sources of energy can be global. Right over in Pennsylvania, we have all the natural gas we'll ever need, made here in the USA, tapped by American union workers with union wages, union benefits, have pipelines run by American workers with American union wages, American union benefits, and you have plants here that are reliable. Whatever the weather, they have the most chance of reliability, good onshore old school power plants burning natural gas, as the last gentleman or a couple gentlemen ago said, a very clean source. Now we can learn from that issue in Europe, and we have the advantage of time. This hasn't been built yet. There's still time to change course. In every bit of great engineering, and engineering power grids is one of them, there have always been lessons learned, sometimes by failures. Back in the 1930s, if you ever want to go see something funky on the internet, look up a video of something called Galloping Gertie. It was a bridge built in the 1930s. It failed. Fortunately, no one was hurt. Everyone got off before it did. We now have a lot more reliable bridges all over the world that are much safer for everyone. We almost take for granted because of Galloping Gertie. People learn from it. I'm over 2 minutes. One more example will be the comet. But I want to thank everybody. And just remember, we have time to change courses, do it better than Europe did, and avoid the problems they have now. Thank you.
Hi there, Roseanne Sarawaka, Ocean City, New Jersey. Great information here, but we've had people behind me here who have been searching and digging through this information, trying to find answers. And now you've put it out there because that can take a long time to dig up this stuff. So thank you for the research. Number two is I know that the Van Drew event is happening. I wanted to find out about the power of the testimony. You can put your testimony through an email. Please put your testimony through the email on that link. Everybody in this room would probably like green energy if it was really green. If it was at least 70% efficient, we'd be right there, but it's 40 to 45% efficient. Strike one. Everyone in this room might be okay with giving this platform a shot if it were economical, but it's billions spent here for 45% energy flow, still relying on the fossil fuels. Everyone here might be interested if it were not outrageously expensive, so inefficient, and did not damage our oceans and its inhabitants. Strike three. All these points documented on the BOEM site and other sources, tons of gasoline, dangerous SP6, I think it's called SP6, gases, and as the gentleman prior to me said, no success in Europe. My background is science education consultant in New Jersey and PA, and my biggest point here is I know what is taught in the curriculum at a young age. They are taught everything is green, and some of the people out there are pushing green, and not all of it is good. They are idolizing the green energy gods. Children have been taken to beachside events to build their turbines. And then we looked closer at the pictures and saw who sponsored it. Ocean Wind sponsored children's brainwashing to look at these turbine events. Oh, one more. Children learn to honor the turbine with incorrect and damaging information, which children pass on to their parents. Teachers and administrations control that curriculum, and parents and children trust their teachers. We need minds that are open and curriculum that makes sense. So one thing that could happen starting in Ocean City is work on that curriculum, and parents, give open minds to your children. Don't allow them to be brainwashed. There is proof. 10 seconds. There is proof of EMF emittance on crustaceans' offspring that have caused deformities. We are reliant on horseshoe crabs that live in the vicinity for development of vaccines. So our oceans are important. Thank you very much.
Thank you. John Gardner from Gloucester County. So, I'm sorry, there was a lot of things that they didn't tell you up here tonight. Did they tell you that New Jersey is actually going to be when they have this service, right? We're going to bear the cost of this. So if the wind farm breaks down and falls into the sea, we pay for this, okay? There's not one mention of the herring that is sitting offshore waiting to come in our creeks. Are they going to show up? We have blue and greenbacks. Does anybody realize that we've had problems with that forever? They're out there kind of like holding them offshore. I'm a little nervous. How about, did they talk to the commercial fishermen? Did they get the real report on how many sea bass, conch, and all the other farmable Resources, did they talk to them? Do we have them in the audience tonight? I really don't think so. So listen, everybody needs to know this is bad for New Jersey. This is bad for Ocean City. This is bad for the U.S. This is a lose-lose. All right? Look at the reports. Look at what came out of New England. The stresses on these wind vanes, they're not going to last. 3 or 4 years, they're already breaking down. And you know who's going to pay that? We are. So we need to draw the heartstrings of our legislature and get them to start seeing it the way we needed them to see. So thanks for letting me speak.
Good evening. My name is Bill McGuire. I'm 24th Street in Ocean City. I've got over 35 years of experience in the power generation industry, recently retired. My bottom line up front is there are much, much better alternatives to these wind farms. You showed in your graphic where the termination points are for the transmission lines. The Oyster Creek facility and the Beasley's Point facility have already been environmentally evaluated for power generation. Why are we not using those sites? The company that's decommissioning the former Oyster Creek nuclear plant, Holtec, doing a fabulous job there. They have a design for small modular reactors that last 60 to 80 years. Wind turbines are not economic, they're not environmental, they don't last, and they're a blight to the shoreline. So I'll repeat my bottom line, there are far better and numerous alternatives to this project.
My name is Dennis. I'm a resident of Ocean City. I have a question to the three gentlemen who were part of this presentation. As I listened, I'm pretty sure all three of you said we are not against the wind or, the windmills or green energy. I'd like to ask, who is the we? Are any of these people in this room part of the we? Have you polled this city to determine how many people actually believe that windmills are the answer and that we want windmills out in that ocean? Until you do that, stop saying that we are not against it, because I bet you 90% of the people in this auditorium are against it. So maybe you need to take a different approach and stop pussyfooting around and suggesting that we're not against it when we all are. Why don't we tell the legislature, tell the governor that Ocean City is against it, that you as elected officials are against it, and maybe we can start to make a change. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Karen Coursey. I'm a Atlantic City resident, born and raised there, and now have a home in Ocean City for 25 years. My biggest concern is for the next generations. We've lived most of our life. I'm 65. Do I have another good 20 years? Hopefully, but it's for my grandchildren, my children. I don't want these cables running underneath 35th Street, going out. My home is on 34th Street. That's going to radiate to my property that I spent over $1 million to purchase, okay? Worked 38 years in my business, sweated and slaved to have this for my family. And now you want to do this to my grandchildren? You want to contaminate them? And then here's the other thing. Over the last year and a half, I'm in my home in the fall and off season, and all of a sudden we hear this boom. My house shakes. I go to my husband, what the hell's going on? Are we having an earthquake? He gets on the Weather Channel. Is there an earthquake here? I get on Facebook. Out in Memora, my house is shaking. It's not, that was them surveying the ocean. Unbeknownst to us, what they were doing. Now, if I walk into this gentleman, I walk into him because I don't see him. I use my eyes and my ears. What are the whales using? Their ears. Their ears are being destroyed by that sonar, and that's why they're being killed. I've never in 65 years seen this. I grew up, my grandfather would go down on the beach, that hotel behind Convention Hall in Atlantic City. When there was a storm, he'd go pick up the conch off the beach. That's what we saw. We never saw whales, dolphins, dead sea life. This is a total crime, and you as our representatives need to fight for us, because we put you there, and as fast as we can put you there, we can vote against you. And I understand about the unions. I see the unions. I was at the Upper Township meeting. Their union head was handing out papers to their representatives to get up there and speak. The one guy said, I'm not getting up there and say that. I can't get in front of people. I want them to have jobs, but not jobs to destroy my environment.
Okay, I'm Donna Moore from Ocean City. We all care about the whale deaths, and we also care about the continuation of ocean supporting marine life in our ocean. Over the past 200 years, our world's oceans have absorbed more than 150 billion metric tons of CO2 emitted from human activities. The atmospheric concentration of CO2 has increased due to burning fossil fuels. What are we going to do about this? We have oceans absorbed roughly 1/3 of all CO2 emissions related to human activities since the 1700s. We need alternative energies, green energies. Yes, we need to get off fossil fuels, but we need to be smart in how we address this. Nuclear is not an option because no one wants nuclear waste in their communities. And that would be a social justice issue for the communities that have to receive these. So as the ocean becomes more acidic, it damages the shell life's ability to create shells, affects complete ecosystems of food populations for the larger animals, and affects the fish and whale skeletal structures. So we're looking at a situation that we have to address. But as we advocate against the wind turbines, let's choose and present viable options, green options, in contrast to the Orsted project. And another quick note, Orsted 1 was initially closer to the coast, but then was advocated to be farther offshore, 15 miles, and now Ocean 2 is closer to the shore again and needs to be advocated against too if things develop, so that the Atlantic coastal flyway bird migratory routes are not affected. But the first thing we have to do is find alternatives. Thank you.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Anthony Canisi. I grew up here in Northfield, and I still live in Atlantic County. Does this project affect everybody in the city and in Atlantic County? Yes. But what else affects everybody in the county and the whole coast? Global warming and sea level rise, and that's the biggest thing that I'm concerned about. The wind farm alone does not stop global warming and sea level rise at all, but renewable energy is not one project and then boom, problem done. So it's numerous projects, and if we stop this one, like, when's the next one going to come? We don't know. I want everything to, I want this to be one step forward in the infrastructure for America, right? I'm a trade worker. I know how much maintenance and new construction the infrastructure needs. It needs a lot. So every opportunity I can get to move our infrastructure forward is a good thing as far as I see it. I hear all of your concerns about the tourism, the litigation, who has the rights to build, maintain, and generate the power, who will pay for it, the marine life, the challenges of wind power generation, but that all becomes irrelevant if the whole coast is 5 feet underwater. I love this city. I want my grandchildren to visit the boardwalk just like I did. I want this project and project license to move us forward in cleaner energy so that can be possible. Thank you.
Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Normally Linforth. I've been here since 1953, attended Ocean City High School, just away for college and back again. In my time, I only remember 2 whales all that time that ever came up. I have just one word to say from my grandfather in heaven. This is criminal. I would like to urge everyone to try to Google the 60-minute show on this subject. It's invaluable. The people involved, their electric bills double. Okay. I worked very hard for the BYOB issue, and I do not understand why we cannot vote for this serious situation. It has to be voted on. When you go to a store and you buy something, if you get home and it's not right, you can return it. We cannot return this. This will be a burden on us for a long time. The blades for these windmills are made in China, and they do not hold up. They're made of fiberglass. I just feel that if we don't take legal issue on this, shame on all of us. Thank you.
My name is E.C. Reeves. My wife and I just recently moved here to Ocean City from Texas. Something that we learned in Texas. My comments, I think the elected officials here are doing a great job. My comments are to the people. We, the people, must take action. That's what has to happen. In Texas, we would pick up our phone. We'd have 300 or 400 people pick up a phone, call a legislature, and bomb his office with 400 calls. I suggest we do that to the BPU. Let your voice be heard, let your values be counted, and like Ronald Reagan said, if they won't see the light, then let them feel the heat.
My name is Michael Testa Jr. I'm your state senator here in Legislative District 1. You know, growing up as a kid, I remember a bumper sticker. It said, "Save the whales." When you saw that bumper sticker, you knew more than likely that the person that had that bumper sticker on their car was probably a member of the Democratic Party. What happened? What happened? This is an unprecedented number of whales that have washed up on our shores. I have lived in the state of New Jersey, in South Jersey, my entire life. My first job was as a member of the Wildwood Beach Patrol. I have followed New Jersey my entire life. I have never seen this unprecedented number of whales washing ashore. We should all be taking pause with this project. And what is the harm? We only have one time to get this project either completely right or catastrophically wrong. And it appears to me that right now things are going catastrophically wrong. When you have this amount of marine life washing up on our shores, we should all be taking a long pause and saying, what is going on here? And yet, I have a real problem with home rule being taken away. And a small amount of people deciding the fate of a great municipality like Ocean City. And I'd like to point out the utter hypocrisy of the left on this. And it is absolute hypocrisy. And Mr. Mayor, I know you don't like to make things political, but that's what I do. If this were one whale that had washed up on shore as a result of any type of sonar testing to pursue offshore drilling, I assure you, you would have the Sierra Club and Greenpeace surrounding a whale carcass. They'd surround that whale carcass, hold hands, tears streaming down their faces, singing Kumbaya. I mean that, folks. This is utter hypocrisy, and it's hypocrisy at its worst. So for the folks that said, where are your lawmakers? I'm right here, and my team is right here with me. And I just want to thank those gentlemen who are on the stage to facilitate a meeting like this. Folks, this is transparency and government at its absolute best. So we should be thankful for our commissioner director. We should be thankful for all of the attendees who represent their positions in government, and we should be thankful to the mayor of Ocean City. I'm here to thank you for hosting such a wonderful event. This is important stuff. And to the gentleman who mentioned Holtec, you're absolutely correct about small modular reactors. That is the wave of the future. And just so everybody's aware, energy is sort of a pet project of mine as a legislator. The state of New Jersey gets it right. We have 50% natural gas, 40% nuclear energy, 10% other. And yet you have Governor Murphy who says that by 2035, somehow the entire state of New Jersey is going to be electrified. It's absolutely impossible. It's worse than pie in the sky. You get to say that, Adrian. I don't get to say that. Okay? See, I know my constituents by name. You get to say that, I don't. But I will say this. There are far better alternatives to this that won't be killing our whales and being an eyesore for the beautiful shoreline that we have right here in South Jersey. Thank you.
Hi, it's Dave Hughes from Atlantic County. That's a hard speech to follow, but I mean, a couple of things that I see that everybody needs: a healthy skepticism on how we are sold the green scheme, because all these pie in the sky, just like he said, nobody really knows how to make this work. And just like they say, you know, atomic power, we have cell phones that have more computer power than we had when we went to the moon. We would be able to put our energy into making safe reactors that would produce more electricity reliably instead of fighting. And my questions are, you know, who makes this money on the build for the power, and who makes the money to sell us the power? Exactly. You know, it's one of those things that the American people need to be skeptical when they're sold something like this. And they need to actually spend a little time not just Googling, but actually looking at what needs to be done to find out whether this is actually going to work or not. Thank you.
Hi, Shani. I'm a local business owner, and I live in Upper. Few things. So one thing that came to mind at the beginning when they started all this, they did mention that the state was going to pull a 30-year bond to pay for the project. And that was initial, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. Now, even per the manufacturers, those turbines are only 25 years of capacity, and in practicality, we're seeing them breaking apart within 8 to 10 years. So even when you do the economical math, it doesn't make sense, and the person that will pay for it will be my child that's sitting right there, and everybody's children. So for the guy that spoke earlier, both the union guy and the other one, Yes, I want for everybody to have great jobs, but if my kids are going to have to pay for your bills, I'm not interested. So that's one thing. Second thing, when it comes to Upper Township, I'm very upset with my committee. They sold everybody here, they sold my interest, they sold everybody's interest. So I hope everybody knows somebody in Upper Township get angry, get involved, run for, I guess we all need to run for political positions so we can vote them all out and try and change the course. That's it.
I'll limit my comments to 3 things. First, 500,000 homes, well, that's 4 kW per home. Add a 16 kW charger for your car, you're now talking 55,000 homes. They are testing the soil for thermal conductivity. They have not answered how hot the ground becomes. The answer, of course, is 60 degrees above ambient temperature at the bottom of the ocean. Secondary impact is the oxygen content drops. This is probably why flounder won't cross the cable. How about the crabs? The horseshoe crabs? Was that due to the red knots and medical uses? Third, it's in your wheelhouse, road closing. When they go to build, they're going to want to occupy the street. And there are 20 homes that only access their properties from the sidewalk. And yet Orsted has talked about closing the sidewalk. Any detours should encompass all properties and be handicapped accessible.
Hi, my name is Melinda Decker.
I didn't say who it was. John Fairheller, I'm an engineer and planner.
Can I start over? Okay. Melinda Decker, Ocean County resident, been a lifelong New Jersey resident. My degree is in environmental studies. I'm a proponent of all kinds of green energy. There is nothing at all that's green about this project. The problems I have with it begin with the apparent acoustic damage to the marine mammals that we're seeing, destruction of the benthic layer, where the ocean floor, where so many thousands of species breed and grow and develop, destruction of the migration and breeding and feeding habitats of all of our migratory species, the whales, the dolphins, the other things that we're seeing right now, chemical pollution, EMF pollution, national security impairment with regard to radar impacts, national security with regard to location. They would be very vulnerable. There was a Russian ship in the North Sea last month mapping a wind farm off the Netherlands. Negative return on investment for the taxpayers. Obviously, we're going to be making up that shortfall. Thermal changes from the rotation of the wind changes over the flow over the ocean. Constant vibration of these turbines in the water affecting those species down there. Thermal discharge from cooling exchanges in the substations. They're going to be using ocean water to cool those, and we'll have an increase in that area. And then lastly, nobody asked us. We are the taxpayers. We are the ones who are going to be paying for this now and going forward. We're also going to be paying for it in the future when this turns into a bunch of ocean garbage. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Kathy Ingham. I have a beach house on the beach block of 6th Street. I'm from the Valley Forge area in Pennsylvania, and I've been coming to Ocean City with my family since early 80s every year with my children, and we bought our beach house in 2004. The whole aspect of this is so unthinkable. It's almost like a nightmare. And I feel like we're going to get down in history, a turning point right now, and destroy this beautiful Ocean City greatest family resort. And the people that are running this are at fault, and they took away our right to speak. And I just want to call out, and I mean, don't take this the wrong way, but our Second Amendment says a well-regulated militia is, and I don't want to take it the wrong way because that is our Second Amendment, and it says being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms should not be infringed. Wait, I'm not talking about gun control here. I'm talking about tyrannical governments with executive orders, legislating with pens and taking away our rights. And this is going to affect our property values. This is going to affect our tourism. This is going to affect our fishing industry. This is going to affect our marine life. It's such a nightmare and a disgrace. It's just unthinkable to me, and there's nothing we can do about it. So, what is that? Thank you.
Hi, I'll be quick. I'm Tommy from Newsmax. If anybody wants to get their word out, National will be in the back interviewing you. Thank you.
There's somebody behind me, so I'm not anchor. I was hoping there'd be somebody behind
All
me.
right,
so I'm
well,
not anchor.
last commenter.
My name is Marie Crawford.
We have to stop somewhere. Maybe we'll stop with you, sir. Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Marie Crawford. I'm a resident of Ocean City, and there's a few things that I feel strongly about this. There's nothing I like about it. The first is that security really isn't addressed in this. It's on Wi-Fi. How do they keep these things secure? World War II, a longtime resident of Ocean City said there were U-boats off our coast. What's to stop a diver from coming in, right? So how are they secure? The second thing is, you know, it's just astounding to me that home rule was taken away. It's like a gag. And then when you think about those windmills being out there surrounding our coast, that's like a noose around our shoreline. Like, think of the effect of people, young people, of that. What that feels like to live here. The third thing is, this is personal, and I don't want to get personal, but I have a cardiac pacemaker. And a few years ago, there was an area that I had to travel through, and my pacemaker shut off. And I fainted. So, you know, I had to go to my cardiologist, and what happened was that I was going through electromagnetic field. And so they had trouble identifying how to fix that. They did fix it, and I was told not to go into that area. But what happened is, like, I don't know, we don't know the electromagnetic effects. And 10 years ago, if you told me about electromagnetic fields, I would have been like, oh, well, what? But what happened was, so they fixed it by shutting off the type of, the technology in my pacemaker that shuts it off. So if I hit an electromagnetic field now that's strong, my pacemaker is not capable of stopping my heart from racing. So I know it's a complicated cardio resynchronization therapy device. It's but a lot of people have these things, and there's nothing in there that tells me that it's going to be safe to drive over 34th Street. So that's personal, but I want to know that it's safe. I want to know that it's safe from cybersecurity. I want to know that it's safe for people with electronic cardiac devices, and I want to know that the Wi-Fi is, what's to stop a plane from hitting? And last thing, it's a really stupid place to put windmills. That's all I'm going to say. It's just stupid. Wait, I'm not finished. Okay, one last thing. People come to Ocean City. They're bound up in cities. They're in houses. They're trying to get away. They want to look out on the ocean. They want to feel nature unbridled. They want to keep looking, and they want to see the horizon. It gives everybody hope. And putting windmills in between our vision.
All right, we're going to have two more speakers then. That's going to be it. We need to get out of here. We're way over time, and thank you to the Tabernacle for that.
Sure. Scott Berkey, my wife Kay, and I own a property on 3328 West Avenue since 2008. My wife's been coming here for 60 years.
and I agree with everything that was said this evening. I think the one piece that was just mentioned that hits me the most, I get my greatest joy walking out the 34th Street beach and watching sunrise. It's the simplest thing. And we talked about the impact of tourism tonight. I think about riding my bike on the boardwalk. I get great joy about that 7.5-mile bike ride. Everything else about this project disturbs me, but what bothers me the most is it's going to ruin those moments. When I look out on the ocean, and I won't see sunrise. What I'll see is sunrise broken up by a series of God knows what. And to me, that's one of the things that makes Ocean City so special for me. And I think it's one of the things we can't lose sight of. It's probably the understated thing here tonight. Everybody else hit on the big things. But to me, it's that sheer beauty of what we have. And when it's gone, people will go somewhere else. And I think that we will never get back. So, Mayor, I want to thank you and the panel tonight for putting this together. We happen to be in town this week, and we could come to this, and I'm so thankful we did. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Steve Flogus. I'm an Ocean City resident since 2008. You don't need the timer. I'm going to make this very short. I know a lot of people have left, but can I see a show of hands who is for this project? Can I see a show of hands who is against it? That's kind of what I thought. All right, so everybody that had their hand up, it's our responsibility. This is one thing that has not been mentioned tonight. This is a top-down initiative. Comes right from the top. These climate change people are trying to put the fear of God in everybody, that we're all going to be underwater in 5 years. It's these people, everybody that raised their hand, it's your job to go out and correct the misinformation that's out there. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Before y'all run out the door, I want to thank a couple people. We have Tommy and Tommy from the county IT department. Thank you very much. Our county administrator, Kevin Lair. Everybody at the Tabernacle was such a huge help. So I want to invite back up our commission director, Len Desiderio.
Thank you, Your Honor. And I want to thank you for taking the time to join with us. The Cape May County Board of Commissioners are going to be doing other events like this throughout the county. We've heard you loud and clear. We want you to know that we have been working. We've been working with our special counsel, Judge Donahue, and we need your help. You've heard it tonight. We need your help. Those of you that are second homeowners and you live in New Jersey, we need you to write to your legislators. You've heard where our legislators are. They are firmly with us here. We need you to write to your congresspeople if you are from another state. This is something that we have to do together. And working together, we will achieve the extraordinary. So I thank you once again. Thank you, Mayor Gillian, for hosting us. Thank you to the members of the Tabernacle for being great hosts. Thank you, Judge Donahue. And at this time, call up Mayor Gillian for some closing remarks. Mayor, thank you.
I'll be quick. The reason why the politics with Senator Testa, and again, is because this shouldn't be about politics. This is about our families, our children. I mean, and like I said, we spar a little bit about that kind of stuff because that's why I love Ocean City so much. Nonpartisan, we can always work together. And I think that's why we're so successful. So that's why tonight was so important of bringing us all together. Whether you like it or don't like it, it's bringing the facts but working together. And I want to thank everybody for being ladies and gentlemen tonight because that's what Ocean City is all about. So thank you and have a great night.